up, everyone? So the PGA and DGAs are on this weekend. For all of you those that don't speak awards season, that's the Producers Guild Awards and the Directors Guild Awards, yeah. They're both coming to us on Saturday, the 8th of February, so I thought I'd give you a quick video on my predictions as to who I think the winners are going to be. Bit of housekeeping if you're new to the channel and like award season content, that's kind of my thing. So yeah, if you want more discussion about the Oscars, prediction vids, analysis, then yeah, do me a favor and click that little subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, hit the little like button. All right, housekeeping's out of the way. Let's talk. I'm going to be putting my predictions in on the Awards Expert app as always. I'm going to start off with Directors Guild Awards because that one seems a lot easier than PGA to me. Okay, so first up, we have directing for a feature film, and I'm going to go with the frontrunner for this one. I'm going to go with Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. He's been collecting the most trophies this award season, so it makes sense to predict Corbet. At this point, there's no real reason to suspect there's going to be an upset. If someone were to surprise here, I would think your most likely candidates to pull off an upset would be Edward Berger for Conclave, or maybe Jacques Audiard for Emilia Perez. But I'm not expecting that to happen. This is a category I feel pretty confident about. And for directing a first-time film, when you're predicting this category, you want to look who's nominated, and if any of the nominees are up for Best Picture at the Oscars, then that's going to give them a significant advantage. You're probably going to want to predict them, but if you've got multiple nominees in this category where their films are up for Best Picture, then you kind of want to look at the film that created the most buzz when it was released. So last year it was Sling Song for Past Lives. Argue it made a bit more noise than American Fiction did. The year before that was After Sun. While not being a Best Picture contender, it did create the most buzz. As for this year, the clear frontrunner in this category is Rommel Ross for Nickel Boys, which is nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. None of the other films are nominated for Best Picture. And out of all these first timers, Rommel Ross was definitely the closest to being nominated for Best Director at the Oscars. He wasn't, but he was definitely the closest, probably followed by Pio Capadia for All We Imagine Is Light, because she got nominated for Best Director at the Golden Globes. But All We Imagine Is Light didn't get nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, whereas Nickel Boys did. So yeah, I'm going to predict Rommel Ross wins First Time Director at DGA. Now as for the PGA, this one is a lot trickier. Everybody is going to be looking at the PGA winner to help determine who a frontrunner for Best Picture at the Oscars is going to be. Because the top prize at PGA and Oscars, Best Film essentially, since the year 2000 has matched at both PGA and Oscars 17 out of 24 times, okay? That's a 70% success ratio. It is the most reliable tool for helping us predict Best Picture at the Oscars for two reasons. Firstly, the membership numbers are quite similar with the Academy and PGA. The PGA has about 8,400, maybe a little bit more members actively, whereas the Academy has close to 11,000. Now, while there is like a 2,000 plus gap membership, you know, to allow for margin of error, it's still the closest thing we've got in terms of numbers. And there is a fair amount of overlap with PGA and the Academy. And secondly, the winner of Best Picture at PGA is determined using a preferential ballot system, which is where you list all 10 nominees in order of preference from 1 to 10. And the Academy uses the exact same method for determining Best Picture as well. So with the overlap of voter membership and the same preferential ballot system, it is the most accurate tool we can use to determine who the winner might be for Best Picture at the Oscars. But it doesn't seem as assured this year because this year's award season has been so out of sync with the usual running order for award season. We're actually getting the PGA winners relatively early this year in comparison to previous years. Normally they come a little bit later while Oscar voting is occurring. But yeah, the fires that occurred over California happened smack bang in the middle of award season, and deadlines have been moved, things have been extended and delayed. So yeah, the running order of this award season has been so out of whack. Plus the race for Best Picture is still so wide open at this point. It's a very unusual year that we don't have like one or two or maybe even three like clear obvious frontrunners. Right now we've got about 5 or 6. So yeah, we're looking at the 10 nominees for the PGA. It's safe to say we can rule out A Real Pain and September 5 because they weren't nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, and the odds of them winning here are slim to none. I think even the word slim is being generous. Yeah, we can also rule out The Substance and Doom Part 2. They're just happy to be here. But there are genuinely 6 films that could go on to win Best Picture at the Oscar. They are Anora, The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, Wicked, and A Complete Unknown. I can genuinely see a pathway for any one of those 6 to win Best Picture at the Oscars, but which one of those 6 is going to take the PGA? At this point, I don't think anybody really knows, but to top it all off, this whole award season just seems to have been inundated with one controversy after another. It's just been a smorgasbord of scandals, mostly centered around Emilia Perez, but yeah, some other films and performers have also got like a little asterisk next to their names. It seems like every day there is a new news story surrounding Emilia Perez, whether it's Carlos Sevilla Gascon's old tweets resurfacing or Jacques Audiard saying something else that's controversial. So a lot of people are wondering how much damage has all this controversy surrounding Emilia Perez done to its Oscars chances. I think it is going to impact Emilia Perez's chances at BAFTA and the Oscars, but because all this controversy just came to light in the last few weeks, like after voting begun for Critics' Choice and Producers Guild Awards, there is still a very good chance that Emilia Perez could do quite well at these awards bodies, because like all this stuff happened after voting had already taken place. So yeah, we could be looking at a very awkward couple of awards ceremonies this weekend if Emilia Perez ends up being, a big winner. Because the backlash against Emilia Perez is in full swing right now. But it did win the Golden Globe for Best Comedy/Musical, and it also has received double-digit nominations at pretty much all the precursors: Critics' Choice, Golden Globe, BAFTA, and the Oscars, okay? That's quantitative data that this film has support in the industry, or at least it had support when all the voting for the nominations took place. So yeah, for all of you Emilia Perez naysayers watching, and to be fair, I kind of count myself as one, prepare for there to be a potential shock this weekend if it ends up winning the PGA. Honestly, when it comes to predicting the PGA, I am so lost, okay? I'm gonna try explain why I predicted the pick that I picked, but I in no way feel confident about it. Apologies if you can hear scratching in the background. My cat is going to town right now on my bed frame. Well, that sounds dirty now. He's just like scratching at it because he's bored. Somebody wants attention, doesn't he? So yeah, out of the 10 films nominated PGA, I said there's 6 films I could see potentially winning it. That's Honora, The Brutalist, Conclave, Emilia Perez, A Complete Unknown, and Wicked. We can rule the other 4 out, I say. On Gold Derby, The Brutalist has the best odds here, and I can understand the argument for that because it did win Best Drama at the Golden Globes, but even with Brittany Corbet being the presumed frontrunner for the DGA and the Golden Globe Best Drama, I'm still not so sure about it winning the PGA. The Brutalist winning the PGA doesn't seem assured to me, mostly because it didn't get the nomination for SAG Ensemble, and in recent years, SAG Ensemble has actually gone hand in hand with the winner of the PGA. So last year of Oppenheimer, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Coda. The year before that was The Trial of Chicago 7 instead of Nomadland, which won the PGA, but that makes sense because Nomadland isn't really an ensemble film, is it? And the fact that The Brutalist didn't get the SAG Ensemble nomination has given me pause. Because it's not like The Brutalist is like a Nomadland type film, okay? The film very much does have an ensemble of players in it, and yet they still didn't give it a nomination, which does make me a little bit concerned. Like, are actors, the largest voting branch of the Academy, not as crazy as The Brutalist as we think? Perhaps. And perhaps is The Brutalist not the type of film that does well on a preferential ballot? In a year like this, where the race for Best Picture is still this wide open at this point, it might actually be safer to default to the films which were crowd pleasers, like Honora or Conclave or Wicked. I know I said that I think A Complete Unknown has a chance to win Best Picture at the Oscars, but I feel it's unlikely it's going to win at PGA. It's not had a substantial win yet, and it's kind of banking on its hopeful success at the SAG Awards in order to be a contender at the Oscars. Because it was the second most nominated film at the SAGs after Wicked. It got 4 nominations, including SAG Ensemble. And I know it's had a late surge this award season, but I'm still not convinced there's enough passion for A Complete Unknown to be like a top 3 contender on a preferential ballot for the vast majority of voters. So yeah, I'm not going to predict A Complete Unknown, but if it did manage to pull off a win here, that would be such a gag. Wicked might have peaked too soon. Other than National Board of Review naming it the top film of 2024, it hasn't won a top prize anywhere. And because of that, not many people are taking it seriously as a Best Picture contender. It's also lacking critical nominations at the Oscars for directing and writing, which really puts it at a disadvantage. But there's still a chance that because of its timely and timeless themes, as well as the impact that it's had on the box office and the zeitgeist, that it might actually be a top tier contender on a preferential ballot, like maybe top 5. It might not be a lot of people's number 1 choice, but because it is generally quite well liked and was viewed as an enjoyable time at the cinema, it might actually be placing a lot in the bracket of like 2 to 5. And again, in a year where the race for Best Picture is this wide open, those slots, 2 to 5, are going to be more important than ever. But also, Wicked does have a very good chance of winning SAG Ensemble, and if it does win that, then it implies actors really love it, and actors are the largest branch of the Academy, so I don't think we can rule it out. But I would argue that Conclave is slightly stronger than Wicked because it also got SAG Ensemble. And this is just me speculating, but I feel like Conclave is more likely to get more #1 votes than Wicked will. And I think a good chunk of voters will be placing it somewhere between slots 2 and 6. And I'm actually seeing quite a lot of people on the Awards Expert app predicting Conclave to win at PGA. Maybe you Conclave people know something that I don't. Please do let me know your thoughts on who you think is going to win the PGA in that comment section down below. I really want to hear everyone's thoughts and analysis on this one because, yeah, seriously, I'm stumped. And then we've got Anora, which is also a generally quite well-liked film, and it also got SAG Ensemble. And I know it lost the Golden Globe comedy/musical to Emilia Perez, but the thing to remember is that Golden Globe's voting membership is like 300 journalists/critics, whereas PGA is like 8,400 members, okay? And those voters are not critics, okay? They don't think the same way. The industry doesn't always see eye to eye with the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So yeah, you do have to keep in mind that the voting net at the PGA is much, much, much bigger than, you know, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, who decides the Golden Globes. And despite Anora losing the Golden Globe to Emilia Perez, I can still see Anora being a top 5 contender on a preferential ballot at PGA. I think a lot of people have put Anora on the back burn because of its performance at the Golden Globes, okay? It went home with nothing. And because it hasn't won anything substantial recently, a lot of people are viewing it as not as strong as it once was, like say when the first initial buzz came out of it from Cannes, and then it was second runner-up, you know, at the Toronto International Film Festival. But there is every chance that Anora is going to make a comeback because it is a very well-liked film, okay? Most people do like it. And even though it didn't win anything at Golden Globes, that also might be a reason why some voters might be trying to help it a little bit more now, because it didn't place at Golden Globes. Some PGA and Oscar voters might be thinking, oh, well, I really liked Anora. Weird it didn't win anything at Golden Globes, so I'll make sure to give it, you know, more love on my ballot, you know? So, yeah. And if Anora does end up winning one of the top prizes this weekend at either the Producers Guild Awards or the Critics' Choice Awards, or heck, even both, then it's going to make people feel a lot more confident that it is that presumed Best Picture frontrunner that we thought when it first debuted at Cannes. So I actually think it's a good thing that Anora didn't win anything at the Golden Globes because it helped to remove it from the frontrunner status. You don't want to be the frontrunner early on because it just gives reason to people not to vote for you. That's when the backlash starts to happen. And Anora could be poised now to become a Best Picture contender again. But we do need to talk about Emilia Perez because I am genuinely concerned that it could end up winning the PGA. Despite all the controversy that's come out surrounding it in the past few weeks, it still has a good chance to win, I'd say, because the tide hadn't turned on Emilia Perez until after the voting for the PGA had occurred. And with Emilia Perez being the most nominated film this entire award season, that is evidence that there is industry support for this film, even if general audiences don't like it. I'll admit, I'm not a fan of Emilia Perez, okay? I've watched it twice, I gave it an honest chance, I know where I stand with it. I love to predict how films are gonna do over award season, and I'll admit, I never viewed Emilia Perez being this huge Oscars juggernaut when I first saw it back in Cannes. But there's no arguing with facts, okay? It is the most nominated non-English language speaking film at the Oscars ever, and it's won 4 Golden Globes. And it's also breached double-digit nominations across all of the big precursors. All of that is evidence that I can't refute. And also, Emilia Perez seems to benefit from international support, like particularly in Europe. I know Mexicans aren't too happy with this film, even though it's set in Mexico. But yeah, Emilia Perez still does have the stamp of approval from Guillermo del Toro himself, you know, a Mexican filmmaker. It won 2 prizes at the Cannes Film Festival, and it was the first runner-up at the Toronto International Film Festival. Yep, it came higher than Anora did on the People's Choice Award at TIFF. It also has the SAG Ensemble nomination, and it won the Golden Globe for Best Musical/Comedy. So I'd argue Emilia Perez is actually in a stronger position to win the PGA than the Brutalist is, because the Brutalist doesn't have the SAG Ensemble nom. But the thing I keep asking myself over and over again, is Emilia Perez really the more liked movie more so than Anora, Conclave, or Wicked? And I get that on paper that Emilia Perez does seem like the prestigious pick of the year because it's very ambitious, okay? It's a musical addressing the drug cartel in Mexico as well as the trans experience, okay? It is ticking all boxes, really, okay? It's like, yay, representation, yay, diversity, yay, look how woke and progressive we are by choosing this as the best film of the year, even though that it's so blatantly visible that there is a disconnect between the industry that seems to be lifting this movie up and whichever person at Netflix sold their soul to the devil to make this movie, you know, as discussed as it is, compared to the rest of the movie watching public, the actual audiences that have watched this, not liking it at all. It's baffling, it's fascinating. Like, this movie is going to be studied for years to come and how it's done over this award season. But yeah, it's just so strange that it is genuinely a contender for not only the PGA, even the Oscar, maybe not this point because of the controversy, but the fact that we're here, it is fascinating. But yeah, getting back to the point that I was trying to make, is Emilia Perez really the #1 pick of the year for most people? Is the film going to be a consistent high place placer on a preferential ballot, like say between slots 1 and 5? Like more so than Anora or Conclave or Wicked? I'm really not sure, but it's just so hard to argue with Emilia Perez's stats, its nominations tallies, and the fact that all the controversies around this film did come out after voting had occurred for the PGAs. I really am torn on this one, guys. So yeah, in a year this open, this confusing, with this amount of unprecedented variables, I think what it all boils down to, for me, is which film do I think will perform best on a preferential ballot, okay? I think that is the safest way for me to approach predicting this category. And I think the most likely contenders that will do well on a preferential ballot are Anora, Conclave, and Wicked. They're the films that I think would place quite consistently between slots 1 and 5. I could be wrong. It could easily be Emilia Perez. It could be The Brutalist. But my instincts are saying it's one of those three, Anora, Conclave, or Wicked. They all have that SAG Ensemble nomination. They are all universally well-liked. Again, crowd pleasers, like Oppenheimer, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, like Coda. But out of those three, which one do I go for? For me, I'm leaning more towards Anora. I'm not even sure if I can tell you why I'm leaning more towards Anora. Maybe it's because subconsciously I think it ticks the most boxes. Maybe it's an instinctual thing. Maybe it's just what I've deduced from all the variables going on in this category. But I just have a feeling about Anora. Maybe it's because it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. It's the first American film to win the Palme d'Or since Terrence Malick's The Tree of Life back in 2011. And it did also place second runner-up at the Toronto International Film Festivals. Yeah, that sort of makes me feel like it is a really celebrated film, generally just really well liked. I think it's just got that little something extra, that je ne sais quoi quality that the other two don't have. I can't put it into words. It is just a gut feeling, guys. So I'm gonna predict that the PGA goes to Anora. I don't feel confident about it, but that's my reasoning, my rationale, my logic, my formula as to why I've landed on it, okay? And I have to live with that choice, and I can live with it. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Do you think something else is gonna win, PGA or DGA? What do you have to say about these two awards groups? Do let your voice be heard in that comment section down below. Love hearing from you guys. If you guys have enjoyed the video, help me out with that little thumbs up button. If you want more movie, TV, and Oscars related content, don't forget to click that subscribe button if you haven't already. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, the Oscars, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Hearfield, and I'll see you next time.